a don't quit it till I get the job done club member. May never be president, but when I lay down my head at night, I take pride in what I do.
Welcome to Leadership Insights Podcast. We're going to explore the dynamic world of leadership and equip you with tools and perspectives to lead with greater impact. I'm Dan Evans, your host, owner and founder of Evans Leadership Insight Group. And today we're diving deep into the qualities that define a truly effective leadership in our rapidly evolving world. My special guest today is my good friend, Rick Spence. We'll be tackling some thought-provoking questions designed to uncover practical strategies for you to provide purpose-driven leadership, master communication, navigate change, build resilient teams. Whether you're an aspiring leader, a seasoned executive, or simply just curious about what makes great leaders tick. So let's get started. So first thing, Rick, thank you for being here today. And if you would just give us a little bio, tell us about yourself, and then we'll get going.
Well, first let me say thank you for having me, and I feel honored to be your first victim or guinea pig, whatever the case may be. You know, your friendship is very dear to me, and just a little bit about myself. That I was born out in West Texas and moved to the North Texas area when I started high school, and then kind of made my tour of Texas colleges and universities, and ended up meeting my wife right before I left to go down to what is now Texas State, and I decided that was too far to drive back and forth, and she was going to TCU at the time, and anyway, I finished up at the University of Texas at Arlington, and with a degree in finance, and although that I had enough hours to major in accounting, and I didn't know how that would come back later on to really impact me later on, because I didn't want to be an accountant. And I started off in the investment business and worked with Shearson Lehman Hutton, and then did a few years with Merrill Lynch. And through that experience, that I used to look really young. And so I would meet with these business owners, and the first thing they would say is, "How old are you, son?" And that was always intimidating, but I found through accident, maybe by divine intervention, that if you talk to them about their retirement plans, that I knew a lot more about them than they did. And that just kind of evolved in kind of a niche for me to market to them, to get past the "how old are you, son" routine, and maybe this kid knows what he's talking about. And so I after a few years, that I realized that there was an opportunity to work with small businesses. I kind of joke around and call them the mom and pop businesses, but that's what's the heartbeat of America.
Yes,
and they're, you know, at the time that 401ks were just starting to get become more popular, and companies were moving away from the old pension plans, and they were shifting that investment and savings onto the participant. And so anyway, I kept seeing this opportunity to work with where nobody else wanted to go, and I left Merrill Lynch and started my own pension plan administration firm, specifically doing administration for 401k plans. And at first, my wife and I talked about it and prayed about it for about 6 months, and it just seemed like God kept putting this in front of me, and I'm like, well, maybe this is what we're supposed to do. And if there's anything that I know, you got to walk through the gate. God's going to open them, but you got to walk through the gate. He expects you to do your part, and so I did. And um, I had we at first I'm like, what have I done? But then little by little, the business started coming in, and we had our firm for about 10 years and built it up and um, sold it. And I'd always said that I'd never go back, but here I am, 25 years later, and I find myself back in the same seat. I'm managing um, a third-party administration firm, a TPA firm, and managing 401k plans. Doing plan administration, and we're about the same size company, doing the same job, and but this time around, it's a lot sweeter because there's things that you didn't appreciate the first time through, and I'm older, hopefully more wise,
Yes, sir.
and so things that I used to worry about, I don't worry about. The good Lord's given me a lot of perspective, so that's what I do. People expect me to do something fun and exciting, but I do something really nerdy. So that I do specialized accounting and administration for 401k plans. That's about as nerdy as you can get.
Well, I don't know about that, but I think your intro really leads into our first topic we're going to talk about, and that's leading with purpose. And so I'm gonna ad lib here a little bit. You have a just sounds like from where your career started, you had a purpose. You wanted to um, lead and work with, as you said, mom and pop businesses that are the backbone of America. And then you also talked about how, as you've gone through your journey of leadership, from starting out where you were a young man and dealing with people that were much older than you, much presumably wiser than you, at least in life experience. You had to lead them, especially as 401ks were coming. It was a whole new, topic. It was a whole new category. So how do you feel that? Just talk to me about what you feel about purpose-driven leadership, and some of those things that you were able to articulate with teams and clients across the years.
Well, um, things that I have, there's things that you learn from other people, and there's things that you just have to learn on your own. And so I'm the product of a unique combination of all those, and we all are. And um, the, the, the thing that is most important is for you to have a vision. I mean, it's better if you can kind of quantify it, and then because you can hang that out there as something that you can measure. But it shouldn't. It should be attainable, and because growth is never a straight line. It's never linear, and because there's always setbacks along the way, and there's triumphs along the way, and then so. But you have to have a vision, and you have to be able to articulate that to the people that you're working with, and to the people that you're serving, and I think first and foremost, the reason I wanted to serve the mom and pop market is because I identified with them. I've always kind of been that entrepreneur in deep down, way back when as far back as I can remember. But the leaders that helped mold me were the ones that always had that servant heart. that servant leadership. And I would I tried to be as best as I could as a young man, just a sponge to soak it all up. But they always had a heart of giving. They always had a heart of servitude. Um, but that was something that always inspired me. And so when you craft your vision, that the team that you build around you, that it's something you got to constantly reinforce, not just by your words, but it's by your actions, because actions always speak louder than words.
Yes, sir. And talking about servant leadership, that's kind of been a buzzword, a trending topic and we're always trying to look for servant leaders and serving leaders and things like that. And I think really what it boils down to, or at least what I'm taking from what you said, was you have to walk it out. You can't just go read a book on servant leadership, go to a course. You have to be willing to build a culture of leadership, to build a legacy of leadership that isn't about titles, isn't about roles. It's that everybody is working together as a team. And so I think purpose-driven leadership is just a higher level of maybe servant leadership in my mind, is that
Mm-hmm.
you're all serving the same purpose. Everybody's rowing in the same direction. Everybody's following the same trail. And the leader, while they may be making higher level decisions, their team is always in their decision making process. It's always very high in there, and then also having a purpose. Doing that, it means you're not going to, as a leader, put your team, put your company in a position where you're asking somebody to compromise their morals or compromise their standards. You're not going to allow. You're showing that by by who you take on as clients, and it's then also an expectation of your staff or your team, your people, that you're not going to accept them.
Yeah, I would never ask anybody to do something that I wouldn't do myself, and I wouldn't hold them to. I don't hold people to the same standard that I hold myself, um, because I realize that everybody is not me, and that's one of the things that I think some of the good mentors that I've had along the way have showed me is that, um, because like I said, you're the sum total of all your experiences, and I've had some really good mentors, and I've had some really good bosses, and I've had some really bad ones, and I there are things that you learn from both, and so when you get to that point where you find yourself in a leadership position, that you pick out the good things, you emulate those, you remember the bad things and what you didn't like about that, and say, I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to craft my messaging for my vision, our purpose, how we measure, how we get feedback from the team, how we empower and encourage people. Uh, you get that from the good leaders, or from the good experience and from the bad experiences.
So let's talk about good and bad leaders. So I don't care if you tell me who the best leaders you ever had were. We can give them a shout out because we want to promote good leadership. But when we talk about the worst leaders or the bad leaders, let's not name any names on those.
Well, the things that, and not naming names, because I still pray for those people, and but the things that there's a couple that stand out in my mind, and one was just that he was over his head, and it was a new experience, and we've all been that situation where somebody gets promoted way beyond their ability, and they find themselves in a new position, and then it's almost like they become a dictator, um, and they lose themselves in that. The other ones, I would call it the very top A, very narcissistic kind of boss, and uh, you know, and in both of those situations, there's things that I learned about trust, um, because both those situations, you find yourselves in a position where you have to give them feedback, and you find yourself at that fork in the road. Do you say, do you tell them the truth, or do you tell them what they want to hear? And um, and in the narcissistic leader, you tell them the truth, it always comes back to bite you, and um, and your success, um, they claim as their own instead of for the team, but um, it's the first time you give honest feedback to that narcissistic type of individual, it always comes back to bite you, and that violates that trust that, from the ground level. Um, and if you want to take the empowerment and out of the team, that's the quickest way to do it.
Yeah, I think, as a leader, you have to have trust, and you have to have that psychological safety that that people can come to you and tell you anything. That they can tell you that whether they've screwed up and know that there's going to be some grace, or they can tell you that you screwed up and there can still be some grace.
Yep.
I think that's it's also that's where people in my journey. That's, I think, where I've developed a lot of my leadership skills, is because when you can't speak truth to power, or the team feels that they can't speak that truth,
Yep.
they're going to come to somebody.
Yep.
And leadership is, and that's the ongoing underlying topic of this whole podcast series that we're going to do, is that leadership is not a position.
Mm-hmm.
Leadership is a trait. Leadership is, and it's developed. It can definitely be developed. And sometimes it's developed because nobody else will do it, and somebody's got to. Somebody's got to go to the boss and say, "This is just not working. We're putting the business in danger. Morale's low, whatever that may be." And you may take the reprimand, or you may lose. You may have your trust in them damaged. But I think that the leaders I've had that have done that to me have probably shaped how I am as a leader today more than the great leaders. I try to emulate the great leaders, but I know there's just some people, some days that I'm like, I don't want to be that person. And that really shapes how the clarity of how I try to lead and interact with people.
Somebody told me something, way back. I was an advisor at Shearson Lehman Hutton, and I was the young guy, the rookie of the office, and I was working hard. I was trying to make it work, and it was a tough time in the business, and out of sheer hard work, I had made all the levels, and I was considered successful as far as a rookie broker would go, and but there was so much pressure on me, and both financially, because I was the breadwinner of the family at the time, and but it was also because it was self-imposed. And we had a really good manager of that office who was very encouraging. He understood. He remembered what it was like to be somebody new starting off in business, and he was very encouraging. And then they moved him to a different office, as successful leaders get moved up, and they replaced him with somebody who was the polar opposite. He thought the way to motivate people was through verbal volleyball. I called it. I mean, it was just an onslaught of criticisms, and just it was like you had to do battle daily just to go do battle, in business. And
You had to fight leadership to be able to go do your job.
He tried to rule with fear and intimidation, and tacky comments, snide remarks, and it makes it hard. And so that was one of those that I'm like, I'm never going to be that guy. But I don't think that means that you blow sunshine up everybody's skirt. I mean, I think that when you're developing your team, that you recognize that everybody's different as an individual, but some people are stronger at certain things. Some people are, um, you know, they have certain personal preferences on their working styles, and so being able to recognize that, instead of saying, "Why aren't you like somebody else?" that you go after the things that that are really good, and say, "You do that really well," and just really encourage them to do that, and realize if they get the job done, if they get from point A to point B, who cares how they get there?
Yeah, I've always kind of been I consider myself a results-driven leader. I don't care, as long as it's, ethical, legal, those kind of, nobody gets hurt. I don't care about the process. If you don't have to follow an algorithm. If you're able to generate an outcome that meets our needs, how you do it, I don't care. I think that's, and I think talking about this is also goes back to the difference between leading and managing. You manage everybody the same way. If they need something from HR, they go fill out the right forms, or they go talk to the right people, and that's everybody. You lead people based on what they need. You can't just have a blanket everybody, because there's some days that we all need more motivations than others. So if you're just like, well, I'm going to lead everybody the same, so you're either going to give everybody extra motivation, which they may not appreciate, or see as micromanaging, or see as intrusive, or you're not going to motivate. You're not going to provide what that person who needs the motivation, needs that extra. Might be a hug, it might be a nudge. It might be like, hey, you're not doing your job, or it might be like, you're doing good, the market's bad. It's a tough time to be doing this, but you're doing the best you can, and we appreciate you. And there's a bunch in between that people need, and you can't just do. You have to know your people. That's, I think, another great topic, and we've interwove all of our topics on our list today. So that's awesome. I think everything's tied in which looking at the questions that we had to as our script here today, or our guidelines, all the different things in leadership are all intertwined. So you can't be a good leader and not communicate. You can't be a good leader and not have some semblance of emotional intelligence. You have to be vulnerable and transparent. They have to see you as a total person, and you have to see them as a total person. And so I think that's interesting. And so I want to get a couple more things here before we.
You're right though. Everything is so intertwined, and the difference between a good leader, a mediocre leader, and a really bad leader is just the ability for them to bring all of those things to be good at all of those different things. So if you've got a leader that is, say, good at four of those things, I mean, that, to me, if you're good at three or four of them, that makes you a really good leader.
Yes.
There's probably about 12, 13 things that makes a good leader, but I mean, if you're good at four, that's a good leader in my book. If you've got a leader that maybe only is good at two of them, um, you know, that it's an okay leader. But if you have somebody that's only good at one of them, um,
Or none.
that's not a good leader. That it's funny in big organizations that um, it's more based on political, you know, power, and usually the one thing that they're really good at is playing the political game. I'm terrible at that because I'm too honest, and um, but the leaders in large bureaucratic organizations are the ones that are good at one thing, and they always play the political game uh, the best. And
And oftentimes, I mean, if we look at, you know, any time in the news, you see CEOs that have, we can talk. We're not going to talk about Coldplay, but you see all these things that happen to very senior people, and they almost seem shocked that they got caught. It's like, you're not if you're not a good leader, if you're not doing the things that you're supposed to, um, you're going to get caught. That's one of those things. There's always somebody watching. And then integrity is what what you do when people aren't watching. But you know what? There always somebody is watching.
well, I think as a leader, that I mean, I mean, the Bible talks about leadership, and the in the Bible that it talks about how the leaders of the church are held to a higher standard, and I think that goes with people in any organization, that there's always people, you know, looking to see if your actions match what you're saying with your mouth, um, and so, I mean, your integrity is held to a higher level. Everything is held to a higher level, and it's not just you. I mean, it's your customers, it's your employees, it's your colleagues in the industry. Everybody's looking at you to, and that's something you always have to be mindful of, you know, to practice what you preach. I mean, and live it out every day.
And so I got one of our last main topics we're going to finish up with, and then we'll kind of go into a wrap up, because I do appreciate your time, and I know this is not the only thing you have to do today. So part of our tagline at Evans Leadership Insights Group is that we want to develop a culture and legacy of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think is the important things that you can do as a leader to leave a legacy of leadership?
Well, I think the best organizations are the ones that, you know, don't fall when the leader is gone, and so that means that you have to have a very deep roster. You have to have, you know, people that are well versed in many different things, um, and you know, so if something were to happen to me, if I'm the key man of my organization, the best legacy is if something were to happen to me, if I get hit by a bus on the way home, the the business continues without a blip. Hopefully they'll miss me, but but to have everybody knowing what they need to do, and they have the ownership of their roles and responsibilities, and they're ready to step into the next role, because I'm not going to be here forever. And one of the things that I think about and pray about daily is, how I honor those that mentored me and put me on the right path, um, along the way, in all the actions that I do. Just as all my actions, I want to honor, my Father in heaven. I also realize that my actions, daily actions, honor those who help me. And so with our team, then I talk to them about the future, and um, I talk to them about, the next steps, that, you know every your life is just a book of chapters, and are you going to be ready for, what steps are you doing, what things can I help you to get ready for the next chapter. And I've talked to them about, what are your thoughts, where do you want to go, um, um, and get them thinking about, that legacy mentality. So um, my grandfather used to always say, leave things better than the way you found them. And I try to live that every day. And everywhere that I've gone, I've really tried hard to do that, and I think I have, for the most part. Um, and um, but you have to have that, ability to reach everybody across every age group. It helps that I'm probably a 14, 15-year-old boy trapped in an old guy's body, but um, I inside, I'm still young, and I'm still, um, you know as vibrant and visual as, I ever have been.
Still got the fire.
But life, you get to a certain point and priorities change. I mean, me, that probably fishing probably, trumps everything else. But it's something I enjoy, the things now that really recharge your batteries. When I was younger, that I would just go, 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 go all the time, and I didn't take enough time to really restore that inner man. The caveman, the hunter gatherer, and but you got to do those things. But
Well,
and
not to interrupt you, but I think that that's an important topic that's often overlooked as a leader. We talk about being a serving leader, so we put our people first, we put uh, our organization first, and yeah, we're hoping to have poured out everything that somebody can step into us. Mm-hmm. But if we're a leader and we're not at our best, we're not at it's not about not being at our best for us, it's that we're not at our best for our people. So we have to take the time to recharge our batteries, whether that's just as when you're early in the game and you think you have to go, 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 go. It's what, I just need to take a break and get that mental health time, or get that break. And then as we gain that wisdom and maturity, then it's like, I need to do, not just stop. I actually need to find things that fill my soul, that recharge me, and more than just, it's not just rest, it's rest and recovery. And that may be fishing, that may be hunting, that may be golf, whatever it may be.
Yep.
You got to find that thing, and you have to do it, and it's not being selfish to go do those things. It's actually...
But there's also legacy building, empowerment opportunities in that too. So I have found over the years that if I am going to say, I'm going to take some time off, then there's an opportunity for you to, you know, ask one of your team members that you're trying to mentor and bring along for that next chapter, you know, for you say, hey, will you take care of this stuff while I'm out? Can, you know, I'd like to trust you with this stuff. And I have seen that really like, whoa, you know, that's like, you know, asking somebody to be your second at Thunder Road.
Yeah, I definitely. Um, I know that it's when you're asked to step into that position, and especially if you might not feel that you're ready. I think people that are typically more on the humble people, they're like, man, I can't carry his briefcase, let alone go do the job. And now now you're asking me to step into that role, so that is a big deal. And
You know, I think everybody has a tendency to want to stay inside their comfortable little box, and they want everything to be perfect and not have any problems or trials or anything, and there, it's almost like you've got certain type of team members that are scared to leave the box, and then you got some that okay, I'll occasionally leave it, and then you've got some that are like me that
what box?
what box. Oh, the challenge for me has always been to there are I'm constantly forcing everybody outside the box, and to be adaptable, to be changed, and they and when they say, but this is not in the box, I'm like, so this is your opportunity to look at it and say, hey, we can do this, and we might have to charge you for it, and most of the time the customers are glad. They're happy that you can accommodate them because they don't do our business every day, and um, you know, we're providing them a service. We're helping them with something that they think is complicated, um, and most importantly, I'm getting that person outside the box.
Well, you don't grow in comfort.
Yeah.
You don't grow in complacency. Oh, you do grow in comfort. You grow complacent. You don't grow your skills, and
Well,
you don't move forward.
and you've heard me say this time and time again, but and it's something that I say to everybody, is that no good thing in my life ever came by staying in my comfort zone. I mean, I would not have been married. You know, I I would have. I mean, all the risk that you take. I mean, even making a profession of faith. I mean, that's scary. That's definitely an outside the box kind of moment. And but all the good things came because I got that. Got out of the box. What box?
Well, I agree. We've talked a lot about why we're here today is because I was comfortable and I was complacent, somewhat. I'm going to admit that in my job, and things changed, and I felt that it was time for me to change, and it was a catalyst for change. And so it's scary to, I'm out here trying to start my own business and engage with people, and that's not me. That's not what I do. I
Yeah.
worked in one job for 13 years, and then all of a sudden I'm in a whole new ball game, and it's been a growth. It's been a great growth process. If nothing else, for me, the last 2 months have been a really laser focused on what I think leadership is and what leadership should be, and how I can help people with that. How I can have what I'd have to offer others, and don't think I ever had that entrepreneurial spirit, or I didn't have the courage to act on it. And so it's like, well, now I'm going to act on it. So
It's scary. It's scary. I mean, when you walk away from one chapter, and you haven't begun the next chapter, and you're writing it as you go, and it's scary. But you know, my trust is has always been in Him,
yes, sir.
and and that's the thing. That's probably the biggest difference between me as an early leader versus to now is that I don't sweat the the, the little bumps in the road. I don't worry about some of the issues. I empower the team. I don't have to make every judgment call. In fact, I encourage the team to kind of have that franchisee entrepreneurial thing, and uh, you know, you own this, and you make your decisions, and we have to get from A to B. And like you said earlier, you don't care about the process. As long
care
as
the road you take, as long as you get there.
and if I say take this hill, who cares? As long as we take the hill,
Yes, sir.
um, just how you do it is different than somebody else, but if we all get there together, that's the only thing I care about. But in the process of doing that, I I I, I realized that it's stewardship, and that's something that I talk to the team about all the time. Is that's the consistent message that I'm always talking. You are a steward of this opportunity, this God-given opportunity, and um, we, for our organization, we're all 100% remote, and but I talk to them every day. We do a lot of, and I think it's important to have face-to-face time with them. So we do a lot of Google Meets, and we use that like a phone call. We hardly ever call anybody on the phone, but we usually get on a little chat, with Google Meet, and we. So it's like being in an office with somebody, but even through those little things, that I'm always saying, how do you want to handle this? How do you want to handle this? And when I talk to them about this, keep reminding them this is your God-given opportunity. That you have to be good steward of your business, and I think that helps mold leaders. Where early on, it was more self-reliance, and then I realized, at this stage in my life, that and in what I've gathered from the really good leaders, is that you know this is an opportunity for stewardship, and this is as much of a ministry. You spend so much time at work, but this is an opportunity for ministry, not only to yourself but your customers. I mean, and it permeates everything that you do. And how are you going to handle this opportunity? And they, so for me, it's stewardship is the main consistent message that I'm constantly talking about.
Rick, we've had a great conversation today, and I thank you for that. Is there any final thoughts or anything you got going on that you want to share with everybody?
I would just, one of the other things that you have heard me say this probably hundreds and hundreds of times, but so I'm gonna pepper you with it one more time, just because I love you, and
share the knowledge, brother.
And I know you do, but I would just encourage everything. All the good qualities of leadership is in the book, and I'm talking about the Bible. And if you haven't started reading your Bible, then I would encourage you to start, and even just one verse a day. But there's nothing that will center your leadership, your thoughts, your whatever happens to you during the day. That's always the best place to start, and it's, for me, it's so important that it's part of my everyday schedule, and it's the thing that I do first thing in the morning, and that has been the one thing that transformed everything for me to be a better leader. And I think I'm okay, because everybody says that I'm such a great boss, but I really feel like they are so good, and they are such good stewards, that they let me pretend like I'm the boss, and I feel good that knowing that if something were to happen to me, that the business just would not go under.
Well, funny you talked about reading the Bible today. You know this, and I shared this with you this morning. Today's verse of the day is Joshua 1:8. Study this book of instruction continually, meditate on it day and night, and you'll be sure to observe everything written. Only then will you prosper and succeed in all you do. Funny just how that works. That we talked about that today. And I'll say this, Rick. I don't think they're letting you play boss. I think that you have, through your leadership, through your mentorship, have developed a team that you've been somebody they can emulate. They see stewardship. They see entrepreneurship. Even though you're working for somebody else, you're still owning it, and you're working for them like you're working for yourself. And you're working like them like you're working for God, which is very important. So again, I'd like to thank you for your time, Rick. This has been great. Kellyanne Cardwell is over here doing some technical support and advising us. Kellyanne is the owner and founder of Cardwell Creative. I'd like to thank the puppies who have been our cheerleaders and special unnamed guest hosts.
The mascots.
And so I thank everybody that listens to this Leadership Insight podcast. We're a veteran-owned company. We specialize in training leaders and leadership consultants, consulting with all organizations. So thank you all for being here. Thank you. If you like it, share it. Hopefully we'll get better as we go along. So thank you, Rick. Brother, it's always good to sit down and talk with you.
Thank you.
Zip ties, duct tape, and baling wire, holding this world together.